just about ready here now, finally. Let me see how this stays. All right, so we're on page Kuf Tes Vav. And we says we're on number Daled. So we went through 3. I can't remember them right now. I'm too tired. Inun Umar Naki. So now we're coming to the white wool, or the clean wool. Hatikana Revihu. Gemar V'tachli, so it says Gemar V'tachlis HaTikun Shal Shlosha Tikunim Rishonim. So it's the completion of the first 3. So Tlad the Bedolcha, Kruma the Ravira. So he says, excuse me, I misskipped one. He said Golgotha first is the Golgotha, and then is the Tala, the crystal dew, Kruma the Ravira, and then the crust of between air and the Muchstimah. Hanizka b'pasuk, he says in this pasuk of Sar Roche Ka'amar Nake. So that's the hair of his head, like white wool. So he says our clean wool. So he says that the hairs of the head are like a clean wool. He said they don't get tangled up, Talin bishikula, and they all hang evenly. V'heim tuluyin u'mshaloshim merosh Erich Anpin, they go downwards bishikol echad b'shava, in one length, I guess, and they're each individual. The hainu she'ein shir echad aroch yosim echaveru, one is not longer than the next. Ve'inya the tikun zecha b'shachal z'aras hazeh, so this tikun is who. Ki Kamar is Bar Lael, we've already explained this. The idea that the Shevet Tikunim Goldo Shechem Hastaros Belavushim Ma'atim Elyon or Elyon, and what they actually do, they make passageways and limit down the light. Kedei Lahoyer Latachtanim, so that their light can shine down below Velahachios of Malachim Meso, and ultimately to bring back to life the Malachim that died as a result of the fact that there was pure dinim. So this is the concept of the tikkun that the hairs do. Saros Rosh Erich Anpin of the head of Erich Anpin. Kisa'aros elyonis, because the upper hairs hein sinoras dakim, they're very narrow passageways or straws, channels. That's the right word. Sinoras dakim asher elyonim nimshach or ha'elyon so that it's what it's in a state of becoming more limited. And through this, so there's ability or the power of the lower malach of the malachim that died. The Kabbalah or ha'eldim v'lahachios v'lahachoyos, okay, in order to be able to bring them back life, and then to life again, that they can affect the same kind of thing, that they can also come into the concept of narrowing the light. So this actually is what the Amarnaki does. Below, not just that. Because this tikkun we're talking about are these hairs. It also comes to be the conclusion of the first 3. In other words, it acts in some way to encapsulate them, which are Gugolta, Tala the Bedulcha, and Kuma Davira. How's that work? Because they're still on the inside only. Because they never leave that space in order to shine out. But now, because now they're coming and they're going to shine outwards. Not just that. These hairs. So this is really the way the true way to bring life force back into the malachim who died. Because these hairs themselves, they extend down from what has been refined out from the malachim shemesa. In other words, those are coming up from those birurim, because they were refined out. Follow the Rosh Erich Anpin, they came up into the head of Erich Anpin. V'atahem na'asen bebechinas aros shehem ma'avrim sarim l'mayet or ha'elyon. So now they become what? Hairs. What are hairs? Hairs are bridges. They're bridges that allow the very narrow bridges that allowed a certain amount to pass through them. But sarim l'mayet or ha'elyon, and their function is to limit down the upper light. So what happens now as we go through these openings that are in the hairs? Yotza or the light comes out. So apparently, let me just see his word, V'derek nikve hasa'aros. So I guess he means the ends of the sa'aros. I'm not sure yet. Yotza or v'nimshal lamata l'hakios as a malachim, and it comes downwards there in order to be able to give life to the malachim shemeitzah of l'saknam, in order to be able to bring them back into life. V'nimseki adar ad yedecha b'tikun revi. So now for this fourth tikun, which is called Amarnaki. Again, Yesh Kvar Koach LeMalachim Shemesu. So now there's already Koach in the Malachim that died. LeKabbalah or Ha'alyon, to be able to receive that upper light because it's been limited down to such an extent. Lo Kodem L'chem, but not before this. Until this time, there's no ability for them to be able to receive the light. So therefore these lights, these hairs, they go up. Now he says the hairs go up. Or he said the birurim. He says hasaras olam his bara, to become refined out. Min malach shemezib is from the malachim that died. Besod or choser. So there is a light coming backwards. Now it's going to get a little mixed up here. I am in terms of we didn't say birurim there. I'm not sure exactly. He says that the hairs go back, so the hairs have a backwards function. Maybe that's what he means. Shemesib or choser, because it's a returning light, which is the which are refined once again when you get to the mochastimah. Now let's understand what he says. Where is the source of this light that's going backwards? So it comes from these two lower sefirot, but the outside ones, which are Netzach and Hod. But he says Netzach and Hod ha'elyonim. Whereas the upper Netzach and Hod, Shehem Sod Trin Bayim, which is the secret of the true Bayim, the two Bayim, Shehem Reish the Lo Isyada Amislavshim Ba'aznaim Shal Erich Anpin. Now this is, and we kind of seen this before. It says that the ears of Erich Anpin represent the source of the Or Choser, and they're called also by the name of Trin Bayim Shel Resha. They're called by the Netzach and Hod Elyonim, which are two ears, he's saying. So he says, Shel Erich Anpin, V'kol Zeho Or Choser, and because of the fact that there is a light that's going backwards from the ears, Heim Olim bin HaMochas, so therefore they rise up out of the Mochas Timah, Milamata Lamala, from going down, from down below and going upwards, V'ovring Derek HaKruma Devira. So then they come through the ears. So that's where he says the start of it is. And then they pass through the Avira. And they keep going up until they actually reach the skull of the head. So you start with the Netzach and Hod, which are, I guess, the right and left ear. And from that place you have a concept called an Or Choser, which goes through the skull and produces these hairs. Okay, that's what that one is, and that, he says, is the conclusion. Or the function, I'm not sure exactly that's the right word, but that's the word he uses, of the first three, because the first three are inside. This is actually the mechanism of Or Choser, so the concept of a light going backwards is right there. The fifth one is called Rava de Ravim, which is what? The desire of desires, or the acceptance of acceptances, the acceptable desire, I'm not sure. Hatika Nakamishi, so the fifth tikkun is called Ratzon HaRatzonos, the desire of desires, of the will of wills. Shulchan HaMetzak Shel Rosh Erich Anpin. And where is this located? He says the Ratzon HaRatzonos, or the Ravim, is located in the forehead of Erich Anpin. Because inside of there, Asher Bo Gonus, a Yisod shall Resh the Lo Isyad. And now we have the Netzachot and the Yisod are being mentioned here. We have now of the Resh of the Lo Isyada is planted there. The Lo Isyada Rabbi Nikra Atik Yomim, who is also, now we're talking about really Atik Yomim. V'ofen Makom Genizes a Yisod the Elyon b'Metzach the Erich Anpin in a way that it hides the Yisod, the upper Yisod, which is coming from Atik Yomim, b'Metzach the Erich Anpin into the forehead of Erich Anpin. So he says, Hu ki Yisod the Atik, because this is where it goes. The Yisod of Atik, at Atik Yomim is Slavish, but so Chadas the Erich Anpin is clothed inside of the Das of Erich Anpin. Umakam would Adas, where is the place of the Das of Erich Anpin? Hu bifnim, I think it's bifnim, it's inside of the head, Keneged Hamatzach de Erich Anpin. Now, okay, so I'll just buy that and say that that's where it's at. It's not in the throat, it's not in the chest, which we've seen regards as Erich Anpin. Here he says that the manifestation of the Das is in the forehead. So why is it called the desire or the will of wills? Who mishum sheyisod the Atik Yomim hagonad b'metzach netzach nikra ratzon. It's because the yisod of Atik is called by that name of desire of what. It's like I'm still playing with the word. Ki ratzon heim osius notzor. So now he gives us a little hint, because the concept of ratzon is also the word notzor, which means to guard something. V'hu so tipas hachesed, and this is the secret of what? Of the drop of chesed. Notzor, which is guarded or protected, v'ganos and hidden besocha yisod inside of the yisod. Because what is there? He says the ratzon. Let me read again. Ki ratzon osius notzor, who's so tipus a chesed, is to tell us that the topic here is the drop of chesed. Shenatzor v'ganos besocha yisod, which is hidden inside of the yisod. The Nimsiki Yisod the Atik Yomim Nikra b'Shem Ratzon. It's called by the name of Ratzon. Al Shem Tipas HaChesed. And why is it? Now I'm trying to get a definition of the word Ratzon, and here he says he's putting it together with the word Chesed. So the Ratzon means acceptance in this case, or Tipas HaChesed, that he wants to give. Shel Atik Yomim HaYorid Umizgala b'Yisod, that comes down and is revealed in the Yisod, because that's the nature of how this works, is the Chesed is revealed in the Yisod. V'lekach gam nikrach b'metzach the Erich Anpin b'shem metzach haratzon. So therefore the metzach of Erich Anpin is called the metzach that holds this ratzon. V'yidach b'kol Yisod nikra ratzon. Let's wait. So he says the whole Yisod is called ratzon. L'fi shetipas hachesed Ganus v'shamarbo, because that's where you find the drop of chesed that needs to go down. Amnem Yisod the Atik Yomim Nikro Ratzon Ratzonos, but the Yisod of Atik is called the acceptance of acceptance, or the giver of givers, or the in other words here for Ratzon is the will of wills. Ratzon Ratzonos B'Shum V'Shar HaRatzonos, because all of the rest of the Ratzonos Shehei B'Chasonim, which are the rest of the Chasonim, Shal Partzufim Batachtonim, that come from the Partzufim Batachtonim, Kulim Tuluya B'nei Achazah B'Yisod the Elyon. All of them, what are the words they are hanging down from, holding on to? The upper Yisod, Hazed Atik Yomim, which is where they come from, is Galia B'Tzelusa the Satan. This Ratzon that we're talking about is a Sef Mizgala. How do we see this actually come out? It comes out as a result of the Tefillas Atachtonim Kagon Tefillas Rabim, like the of our prayers down below. And then he says, like, for example, the tefillah of a multitude. What's that mean? The Indian is like this: Metzach de Erich Anpin b'chusuch b'sa'aros, is covered over by hairs. So inside of it, we're saying now we have the chesed of Atik Yomim is inside of the forehead of Erich Anpin. Ve'elu hasa'aras ma'alimim, they hide u'mechasim as ha'or shal metzach Erich Anpin, they hide the light of the forehead of Erich Anpin. Amnam al yedecha tefilus atachtonim, so therefore it's us as we are praying down below. Mizgala hametzach midas aras mechasim alav, so therefore they can be revealed from the hair, that is the hairs moved to the side as a result of our prayers. Va'oz mizgala ha'or shal rava the rabim, and then this light that wants you, that wants to be close to you. The rabim, it's called the will of wills, or the desire of desires. The nimshach derek metzach Erich Anpin, it starts flowing out of Erich Anpin's metzach. Ashgacha. So he says the sixth tikkun, hu bebechinas ha'hashgacha shu ha'einayim shal Erich Anpin, and now we're talking about the eyes of Erich Anpin. Pekicho. So what's the tikkun here that the eyes do? It's open. So it doesn't have eyelids. It doesn't have either. It means, let me see, what have I? Okay, let me see. It doesn't have eyelids or eyebrows that could cover them over, or maybe it means eyelashes. So there's a question about that. The lo noim, it never goes to sleep. Because sleep would mean that the ha'ara, the hashgacha that comes from the eyes, a nimshach machmas histalkos amochin, comes as a result of the fact that the mochin can leave. Like you say, for example, you would see this in the eyes of Zer Anpin, Rosh Hashanah on Rosh Hashanah. I'm not sure that I know all of that. Belayla, or at nighttime, like when you sleep. But this ayin, Shomer Erich Anpin as Yisrael Tamid, this eye of this, which is the Shmira of Erich Anpin, it's looking at us all the time. Commotion Ivar has explained and tell him, he says, it never goes to sleep. So this is the eyes of Erich Anpin. So all of the supervision or the looking out that Zer Anpin does, the looking, Lamat, as he's looking down. Whoops. Okay, I lost you again there, so I'm not sure where I lost you. So we had the phrase, the lo noim, doesn't go to sleep, those eyes. The not to tira, that's where we're at right now, at the bottom of that column, is a b'ayin azeh, with this eye, Shomer Erich Anpin is Yisrael Tamid, he is constantly guarding us. Kamosha Amar, like it says in Tehillim, he says, Hine lo yana v'lo yishu shemer Yisrael, the guardian of the Jews never sleeps. And it says, Mos Ashgachuta D'tniuta, that the Ashgacha of Zer Anpin, called Ashgacha shall Zer Anpin, Lamata ba'olam hazeh, as he is looking at us. How does he look at us? He says, it looks at us from the power of the Or Ha'elyon shall Erich Anpin, HaMispashat El Zer Anpin, which spreads into Zer Anpin. And mislavish v'niknas bo, and then it clothes itself in it, is inside of it. Va'inyan is what? Ki Or Ha'ayin Ha'elyon de Erich Anpin, the upper eye. That is the eye that comes from Erich Anpin, which never closes. Mashgir b'zecher ba'anpin, it's constantly looking at Zer Anpin, v'niknas b'zecher ba'ayin atachton, it enters into the lower eye, and he keeps pulling up and down to mean Erich Anpin versus Zer Anpin. So he says atachton to Zer Anpin. And it's therefore from Zer Anpin itself, you have the shining down onto all of the rest of the lower worlds. So now he said, let's look at this tikkun. It's made through not the netzach and hod al yonim, which he said were the ears, but here it's made for the netzach and yon tachtonim, which are the legs, shehem shtei yarkayim. Shall resh the lo isyada. Now, I'm getting a little bit confused, so I need to read it back again. He says, as a result of this, we're up at the top of the left column. So this tikkun that what? I'm not sure what he means by this tikkun. We're talking about this supervision, but I guess he means the action of this tikkun that taking place in Zer Anpin comes from his legs. Shall resh the lo isya. Say it again. I said it wrong. It comes from the legs of the Reish of the Lo Isya. Now, that was my question. How did the legs get into this? We were talking about Zer Anpin, and now we're talking about the Reish of the Lo Isya, the Hamislavshim Be'ene Erich Anpin, which are clothed in the eyes of Erich Anpin. And then as a result of that they're there, Uvakoich is Lavshu Zu, it's because of the Netzach Hod of. See, here's my problem. He went through and he said that there's an upper Netzach and Hod. The upper Netzach and Hod is related to the ears. Now he's talking about the lower Netzach and Hod, Shehem Shtei Yarkayim, which are the two legs of Reish Lo Isyada. Now, what was in the ears before? That's why I'm getting confused. What is in the ears that causes it to go backwards? Those are the ears of I don't know. Erich Anpin, so that therefore you have the legs of, he says, of Atik Yomim inside of the eyes of Erich Anpin. And because of the fact that it's clothed there, it causes the Tikun in the eye into Erich Anpin, which is, what is a Tikun? It's a limitation of light. Lichiyos pekicho tadira, so that the Tikun there is that it's constantly flowing, it never stops, it's always open. Okay, so there was a little confusion there for me, is exactly what he meant by Netzach and Hod in the different places. Okay, then you have number Zion is the trained Dukfin the Pedashka. We're talking about over here the true two nostrils. V'chatikan ashvihi, so we need 7. Hu shnei nekavim shel chotim Erich Anpin and Nikra Pedashka, which is the two nostrils, which are called by the name, and the nose is called, I think, by the name Pardashka. Pirish sounds like a Persian word to me. I don't know why. Pardashka. So why are we using this word? Who amud chalo? It means that it's an empty column. O kana chalo, or like a reed that's empty, that's hollow inside. So this is really the concept of the nose, because the nose is just a passageway. It's suras hachaitim shu chalo, which is empty. And then there's an arousal of a rucha within it. Now let me see if I can understand it. These are the nostrils of Erich Anpin we're talking about. So the idea of this tikkun is who that it arouses a ruach hachayim into all of the lower worlds. Because from the right nostril of Erich Anpin, you have an aspect of Chaim which is flowing down from it, but then there's a life force inside of that also coming out. So he says, which one is that? Which is the left one. You have the life of life. So ultimately, this Ruach Chaim, which is coming through the nostrils, is coming to Zer Anpin. Zer Anpin Shal Yado, so through Zer Anpin and his agency Han Hagas Halomos, it causes the world called Halomos, who actually Zer Anpin is the energy source for the ruling of for the functionality of all the worlds. So it arouses this in all of the worlds as well. And it also ultimately comes to us and brings us life. Adam in our world. But Tikkun who, so the Tikkun is like this. Who naasa ayedechislavshus malchus shal reish lo isi. Then how does it come about? Because of the clothing of malchus. Malchus shall Reish Lo Isyada B'chaitim shall Erich Anpin, because that's where the malchus of the Reish Lo Isyada is located. So I had this one thing which I would like to be straightened out about, is that I didn't understand the concept of this Netzach and Hod because he has it in the ears, or maybe he meant he says that's Netzach and Hod El Yonim. And then he went on and he says also the eyes. So I don't really understand that, or maybe I misunderstood it altogether. Now let's go on to the next one, and it says Bereshis bara Elokim as the Shemayim b'Ha'aretz. So let's take that pasuk. Hidechav pasuk zechav yesh sheva tevos. So count it up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He said keneged sheva tikunim chagolto shenis ba'aron la'el. So it really, these 7 that we're talking about, these 7 words, each one of them has something to do with the creation of the tikkun that's taking place in the light as it's moving down. So he says, so these 6 six words. Bara Elokem es Shemayim v'Haaretz, those six. Heim Keneged Shisha Tikuni Gugolta Achronim. It really refers to the lower six Tikunim of the skull. Shehem Echad is going back over them. Agamatala the Bedolcha. So the first one we're missing the Gugolta. We're not counting that. So now we're going from number 6 going downwards. And then is the Kruma de Avira. Then the Amanaki. And number 4 is Rava de Ravim, the acceptor of acceptances. And so number A is Ashgacha Bekicha, so that's looking out in an alert way with an open eye. Nukvim the Pardashka and the nostrils. So now let's go, he says, let's take the words. He says, Bereshis. V'tevis Rishon Bereshis. Who can tika the Rishon Gulgalta Shuhu Lamala min Shar Shisha Tikuni Gulgalta on Iskarim. Now, here's another one that I'm not sure I understood this. He said, first he said, we're counting these 6 refer to the lower 6. So then he says, V'tevis Ritev Rishon Bereshis. Of course, whoa. Okay, keep losing you there. I don't know if there's anything I could do about that, but... Okay, so he has here what seems like a stira to me, so I'm trying to understand it. So he went through a count of the 6 of them, right? And he starts, what's the first one? The first one is Tala de Bedolcha. So he says, let's take them word by word. So the pasuk says, Bereshis, V'tevecha Rishon de Bereshis, so that first word, who can negate tika the Rishon Gulgalta. Now, he just left the Gugolta out, but now he says it corresponds to the first Tikkun. Shuhu Lamala min Shar Shisha Tikuni Gugolta on Niskarim. So this is the highest one. Barashis, then he says Barashis, that he created Shis. V'lechein Tevid Bereshis, let's say the word Bereshis, right? It's 6 letters. Nachlach l'shnei Tevos Kach, it can be divided into 2 words just like this. Barashis, it created 6. The Pirusha Shatikun the Rishon, now we're talking about the Gogolta, has a power within it. Barava Atzel as Shis Shisha Tikunim in Niskarim. It itself corresponds to the creation of all of the other 6. They all come from it. Alaihu, that is Kikun the Rishon Gogolta, who Aleichem, it's up above them, Lamala. The Shar Shisha Tikunim, it's up above. So therefore, I'm still trying to understand. It seemed to be a little stira here, but anyway, ki kulam nimshuchu v'nispashta b'kocho, because all of them wind up being developed and extended downwards through the power of this first one, which is the Gogolas. So let's understand this. Ki chesed shel reshadol isida, which we've said before. Mislavish b'Gogolta is clothed in the Gogolta. Now, not to be confused with the fact that he said that the Yisod of Atik Yomim, which is in the forehead, he says it hides within it a chesed. So I'm assuming that this is the chesadim that you find in Das, but it wasn't 100% clear to me, because now we're coming back and we're understanding that the chesed of Atik is located in the Gugolta. Because we've already said if you have one, this chesed, the kula, it has all the other 6 in it. Amid a chesed hazechadim shochem and ispashnim oris a chesed el shar shisha tikunim. It goes on to the rest of the 6 tikunim. The nimsiki tevis bereshis, so it comes out like this. Let's take this word bereshis as 6 letters. Shuhu tika the rishon gugolta, which is the first tikkun. So like I said, this is a stira, because he said the 6 are the other 6, not this one. But he says that, so he's calling this the tikkun the rishon the gugolta, who me'alehem, it's up above the other 6 shel shar shisha tables, because within it, it just has to unfold because they're all inside of it. So he said shar shisha tikunim, which are all the other 6. Ki or ha chesed shel gugolta, because the light that is coming from the chesed of this gugolta, kol kulam, it has all of them in it. A Mavara Odin explains further. Kulhul the Satan. He called Eila Hashevet Tikunu Gugoltish Amarno. So now going back over the 7 that we found in the skull, Haim the Matab Zer Anpin, they also exist down below in Zer Anpin. Ki Gam Zer Anpin Nishlam Beshevet Tikunu Gugolti. He also has 7 tikunim in his head. Vatalia Beshevet Gugolta, and they really depend on what's happening in the 7 in the Gugolta. This word talia, which I think means they're rooted there. V'shevet Tikunim Gugolta, and the 7 Tikunim at the head now, Hatachtainim shall Zer Anpin and Zer Anpin, Taluim Mikoich Shevet Tikunim Gugolta, they're really rooted there. Ha'elyonim shall Erich Anpin. Ki or ha'chesed, the reish of the lo isya, because the light of chesed, of the unknowable head, the reish of the lo isya, the mislavish b'gugolta, the mispasha b'shevet Tikunim Gugolta, is in the Gugolta, that's where it's manifest, and then after that it spreads into the other 7, or the other 6, mispasha b'shevet Tikunim Gugolta, and it spreads into the 7. Nimshach ayidech Erich Anpin lamata, so therefore Erich Anpin down below. So Nimshach, excuse me, I said wrong. It extends into Erich Anpin, this entity, this chesed, which is in the Gugolta, spreads into Erich Anpin lamata, which is below it, a morish or so, and it causes it to be inherited, to become a property of Zer Anpin. Umeir b'shevet Tikunim Gugolta, and then he shines with the 7 Tikunim, with the Gulta shall rosh Zer Anpin, which is the head of Zer Anpin. V'amar od, and he says further, ad Yekiva de Kirusa, until we get to the precious of the precious. Because the lights of the 7 Tikunim of the skull, they keep going, they keep spreading. So these 7, which are they until they reach the beard, which is called Yakar Yakarim, the precious of the precious, or the glorious of the glorious, something like that. Because the Gugolta is also incorporated, the Kalelis is incorporated in the Mochas Timah. Now, how does that work out? So he wants to say that it also gets into the Mochas Timah. Is that what he wants to say? Which is, of course, the place from which everything starts to flow out. So from the power, what's his word? That it has everything within it, that it manages to make its way to become for this chesed, which is in the Gugolas, el mochas timah, that it's mashpia to the mochas timah, and ben mochas timah nimshachan the mispashnim oros hashevet Tikunim Gugolta el the dikna the Erich Anpin, and now it winds its way from the mochas timah into the dikna. Thank you. Good Shabbos. Whoa.